All right, so we are live. And in the chat is a link to the database, so Pauline, tinywebdb.appspot.com, so you can see what's in there. Looking in there now, I'm not sure if some people, well, I know one person did, but I don't know if other people, if there's different ones in there because you were trying to just create your own and see what your own was doing. Again, just remember the purpose of having the same tag is that everybody is using that one tag and playing along with one another, right? It's this idea that you would have one top score tag and the app on everybody's device is accessing it, and whenever you get a high score on your device, it will overwrite what's in the database and save the new high score. I do see the couple that had 2 C's, right? So I know Phil mentioned you saw that. I see another one here with Michelle. It should just be 1 C that we had talked about. It looks like for the tag that we had talked about, the Android Match Top Score MCSP15, the high score was 36. So if someone was using the completed app now and had that tag and then went into play, if they beat 36, it should replace that with that high score with their new score. Are there any questions so far? How did it go? Anybody have any?
The one that I'm just not really confident with is the one where you have to check like when you got value thing. That's the only one that I'm really not really confident about.
Say that again?
The one I'm not confident about is like when you have to check like from the web DB when got value. That's the one that I'm really not confident yet, because I understand storing and getting the value, but like checking for like when you got value, that's the one that I'm not so sure about.
Okay, so you asked to get the tag. So in this case, we want to get Android Match Top Score and CSP15 for your cohort. You get it. You asked, and send the request to get it. Then you pull out got value, and in got value, you have to write some if statements. So an if statement would be, okay, if the tag that came back with the got value, if that tag is equal to Android Match Top Score MCSP15, then what do you want to do? Well, you need to then check if, right, so another if the value that was returned from the database is a nothing. If it was nothing, what would that mean? It means that that tag had never been used before. So if it's your first time that tag was never in the database, you have to account for that, right? So now when you play it, people have been using it, it should work. But whoever did it first would have to check and see if that value gave back was a nothing, what should the value be? So if it's a nothing, that means the top score really should be a 0. It means nobody has used it before.
I did that. Like when I got back to blank the first time, I changed it to 0.
Yes, that's what the if statement is for. So there's one if statement that says, if this is the tag that you asked for, then inside of it, it's like it's a nested if. If it's the tag you asked for, and if the value that comes back is nothing, that means the top score is 0. I mean, if no one has used that tag, it doesn't exist, that means it's 0.
So really the primary reason, I guess, that we really use that if-else statement is to catch in case that it was the tag is empty in the first place or it was never used yet.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So whoever did it first this morning, if you were using if everybody had used the same tag, whoever did it first would have been the one to come up with that issue. If you're using your own tag, you definitely have to write that statement to account for it. Because if you're the only one using it, and you use it for the first time, it's going to happen. It's going to come back as nothing, an empty string.
Okay, that's clearer now. I just thought the reason why we're doing that is because there's a possibility that over transmission, the wrong data may be transmitted.
Yes, so that's another reason, right? So if it's the
Oh, it
wrong,
is possible?
the first if statement, remember it's a nested if. The first if statement is to check to make sure the correct tag came back.
Oh,
So
okay.
this, so this is an if statement, and then inside it there's another if statement. So it's nested. Too far off. Okay. So you say, this is good? If, right, if the tag is Android Mesh, right, whatever we said, then you have another if inside of there, right, so this is one block. And then you have another block, I can't draw these things, then you have another block saying if the value equals nothing, right? Is that hard to see?
So what you're really saying then is even if when we called the on the get value, even if we called the tag that we really wanted, there's still a possibility that another may be transmitted.
There could be something else that's coming down, right? This is more so it's to cover for if you have two tags. So let's say you have the Android Mesh top score,
Yeah.
and you also ask for the Android Mesh top player name. So you want to know the top score
Oh, okay, I get it.
the
Okay.
top player. You're going to ask for those two things at the start of the game, right?
Okay.
Get top score, get top name associated with the score. Then when you have to check and see which one
Which is
came back.
which? Yeah. It makes more sense now. Thank you.
Michelle, you have a question?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let me unmute myself. What happened? Like I had the same problem Philip had, and I tried it with 1C. It was like real early on, and so I'm not sure what happened there. So I'll have to go back and check that out.
So that's what I was just saying. If you did it, if you if you were the first person who did it,
Uh-huh.
you are going to get that there was nothing because this morning when we looked at the database, right, the only things in the database were the students that
Right. Right. Yeah.
that Android Mash top score wasn't in there yet,
Right.
and we talked about. So if it's
Right.
supposed to look into the database for it, it's going to return back nothing, an empty string, meaning it's not in there yet. So that's where you have to have that if statement to say if it's nothing, you want to set it to be 0.
And I thought I had that if statement. So I'll just go back and check because I thought I had that. But I really don't understand how to process dates on the next challenge. I'm trying to work on trying to understand how to process dates. Like, what does a date look like? Is it a string? It looks to me like it's a string, and I'm just not sure how to handle dates.
Are you in 6.8?
Yeah.
Okay. So the date actually comes with the clock.
Yeah, and I have that.
You can get a timestamp. You can get the date and time, and then you can format it.
And
that's playing around with the clock.
yeah, and so basically it just looks like that. It just looks like it's a string, and then you have to go in there and separate it out. Is that it?
If you're doing number 2, so if you're looking at number 2, there's actually an example in 6.8.
Right.
It says it stored a list. It says Ralph is the name, 7 is the
Right.
score. Then
Right.
when it's in quotes, yes, that's a string when it's in
Right.
quotes. So it gives you the date and the time. If you don't want the date and the time together, say you just want the day, you can ask the clock to just give you the day, if I remember correctly, with the clock component.
Oh.
Oh goodness. So you can, the clock component, actually let me open up App Matt, oh my goodness. The clock component is a sensor now, right? Yeah. So if I add a clock and I go into the blocks, it stinks that I can't do screen share on this computer, so I apologize. But if you look at the blocks for the clock,
Right.
you see is it there? You have a format time and a format date and time, and they have a format date, right? So
Okay.
there's 3 different options. There's 4 different options.
Okay.
3 different options there. There's format date and time, and the blocks have changed now. They actually give you an example of what it looks like. It tells you right in the blocks now.
Yeah, because
What's instant?
Instant would be what is it that you want to format. Well, in this case, the
We get-
time would be clock.now. You want the time right now. There's another block for that. So you want to format is a method or a procedure that was already written for you. Now the instant is what time do you want to format, right? And there's different types of times that can, there might be different, you can use the system time. There's a difference between the system time and the clock and the actual clock time. There's like 2 different ones. There's another block down below, another procedure that is actually called, it's a method that's called call clock1.now. And you plug them in together. So you can choose what, if you just want the date, you get the format date block, and the instant would be the current time right now that you format. And it tells you how it gives you an example of what it looks like when it will be formatted. So
Okay.
how's this?
Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, I was looking through that. I guess. I'm not really sure how to initialize that in a list. I'm still working on it.
So with a list, it's just you're adding things to the list and then saving the list. So you can add whatever you want, whatever information you need from the user, and then you save the list. So far you, in TinyDB, on the phone, you saved just a score. Now in TinyWebDB, you have saved a score as well, which is a number, but you should also have saved a name,
Right.
which would be a string, in a text block, right? And then now it's saying you can also save a list. And you just need to say what's in that list. So you got to add items to the list, add whatever you want, like you were going to the store and you add items to your grocery list, and then you want to save that list when it's completed into the database.
I have a question.
Sure.
So for saving on a list, do we always have to save a list as a whole, or can we save one? I mean, like overwrite one element of the list at a time.
You are pulling the list. If you're working with the list from the database, you're pulling whatever's there down, and if it's a list with 3 items in it, you can save that into your app and into your code, and then edit just the item that you want to edit. So yes, you can edit just one part.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I just thought you have to like always store the whole list all the time whenever you edit.
So you said to store the whole list?
Yeah.
You have to pull it down. When you ask for the tag, like you're going to save this list, say it's the tag is grocery list, and then your list has a list of items, let's say milk, eggs, and bread, okay?
Yeah.
You have to pull it, when you pull that, when you say get grocery list, it's going to give you a list back, it's going to give you the entire list, pull it down for you.
Yeah.
You manipulate and change whatever's in it. Say you want to replace milk with cream, okay? Then you replace it and then you save it back, the entire list.
Oh, that's my question. So I really have to save back the whole list. I cannot just save, I mean, edit and save like one element.
You
It really,
can't, yeah, you can't say get first item in the list under tag grocery list.
okay, yeah. So I have to call the whole list.
You have to get the entire list.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. The get tag only lets you get the entire thing under the entire value that's stored under that tag.
So for this databases, we can only it can take either string, numbers, or lists.
Right.
Okay.
So another thing, if you're on 6.8 and you're trying to do 6.8 with a list, you can't, if there's still people who are still working on 6.7, you're going to change the tag, right? So I know 6.7 is save the top score, save the top name, right? Then you get into 6.8, which is save this list of items, right? You can't use that same tag to do that. So for 6.8, you should be making a different tag, and that one you can kind of make your own to test it out. Because if you change this, if somebody saves a list under this tag, and say Larry is still working on 6.7, his app will never work because you saved the list in there, and he's only having his app check for one thing, check for a number, right? So when you have a tag, whatever you're storing under there, you have to keep that same data type every single time. And since both lessons, each lesson is working with a different data type, one has a number, and then 6.8 is a list, you have to change the tag. So we can all agree on a tag right now if you want to, or you can kind of work on your own and create your own tag, as long as you're consistent with that tag every time. But this is the goal for this one here should be, all of you should be able to use this tag for 6.7 and be able to play the game and beat each other's scores. So Alan, I think you claimed 36. Matt, who's sitting here, should be able to play the game and beat 36, and it should replace it.
Not sure if everyone is aware, but you can check that appspot.com link that Pauline showed on your browser, so you can really see what tags are available there.
Yep. So I can see, I can see Matt had a separate one. He explained what he was doing with that to me. I can see two different people have CSPs. Michelle, it looks like you're saving a list as the tag. I'm seeing some parentheses in yours. I'm not sure.
Who did 36.999999986?
Okay. So this one is like really tedious as far as making sure that if statements are correct, right? Make sure you have your nested if statements. If you don't have those, and they're not done correctly, it could mess it up, and it could be just one little thing and it will throw it off. So remember, this is coming at the end of the course, right? The very end. You're almost done with the school year at this point. So they should have the experience now to have went through, done some debugging. They've worked on their own apps. Now they're working on something that somebody else gave them. You know, this is really going to be the test of, you know, who's really good at picking out these things and being able to be really, really precise with what they're doing. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? There's that nested if statement.
Hey, this is Chris. I took the approach this time when I was doing 6.7 to start with the instructor tutorial that was pre-populated with the local database stuff. And I found it was a little confusing to do both the local and then add in the WebDB. Now, understandably, our kids are going to start at the lower level, so they probably have some pre-existing knowledge. But if anyone is just starting with that other newer one that already has all the local DB stuff in it, I thought it was a little confusing. So I spent some time chopping that up to try and just get to the WebDB stuff and figure it out.
So can you give me an example of what local stuff you're talking about?
Well, yeah. So I save a high score and it goes into my local database, and then I'm trying to test the web one, and it's like, oh, this tag has to change, this tag has to change. So there's a lot to do if you're not familiar with that stuff. So an enhancement would be to make an app that has removed the local database stuff and just uses the TinyDB web components.
Right. I see. Okay. So yes, it was taken so that way. This is taking the idea that you already knew Android Mash from you did Unit 4. Then you add in the TinyDB, which was the other lesson, and now you're going to keep going, keep working with the file that you have, and you're going to continue on so that way you can add in the feature to play with other people. So in a class, it would be that you're going through with them and you keep adding on to what you're doing. So they don't necessarily start with a new template. They could keep going with what they're working with, right? They really like the version that they had, they could do that. Another thing that has come up is Ralph was considering changing the topic, which is like saving maybe like quiz questions into the database instead of saving a score, because it's kind of like this chase game. So I said if if Michelle goes and tries to beat Alan's score, she gets 43. And Scott is playing too, and he gets a 47, right? Is that right? Yeah.
At the exact same time.
At the exact same time, whose is going to go up?
Yeah, I can see there being some conflict there, but
right.
I do like the idea of the score thing because I think that's really accessible to kids, so I wouldn't change that. But what I would do is add another section to this module that is just a standalone app of the MoleMash with the TinyWebDB, in case someone wants to come in on just that without having that precursor app already developed. Just a thought.
Meaning having a template that they can start with here?
Yeah, and we did use, it used to be TinyDB and then TinyDB projects. So then if you had the project file, it was like the completed MoleMash of Android Mash with TinyDB, and you could add like other enhancements to like the UI or something. But then we decided, just let them continue, and we made the decision to make 6.8 have one set of projects for both persistent data ones. So it used to be that we had that, and we had a separate file, so if someone missed class, they could go click on it, and it would be completed without the TinyWebDB being in there. It would be complete Android Mash with TinyDB, and then they could add on to it. So essentially, that's what this is, right? When you start with it. But there's other like constants and stuff in there.
That's good. Just want to extend those thoughts.
I have one more question. Happened. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. So because I see that from the browser, when I can access like the values, I can delete, I can store, I can get. From a user perspective, if the user is trying my app, does the user have a way to figure out where I'm storing all this information?
So remember, this is just for teaching purposes. So if you were using the App Inventor one, if you saw the App Inventor DB, it has you can't see what's in there. You can't delete things and such. So then you don't know what the tag is, and you can't store and get, right? It's just us as from the developer side, we're seeing what the tag is, we know what it is. And you can make your own database and make it so that way you can't delete, an outside user can't store and get information from it and can't see it, right? So this is just for teaching purposes that, like, I didn't disable anything in my database. I just made a database and put it there for everybody to see and work with.
Yeah,
okay.
But also, you can create your own your own instance of the database, right? So that, and if you know some Python, you can actually tweak it. You can put a password on it. You can do other things. That requires some coding, and there is documentation for how to get started on that. But you don't have to use either ours or App Inventors. The deal with App Inventors is, it has a huge community using it, and things just, it's got a limited number of rows, and things just disappear off of it, right, after a certain time. So if you're going to do a serious app, you probably want your own database that you have control over. But to answer your first question, can the user see it? Oh yeah, I mean, because the URL is right in the source code. If they have the source code, they can see how to get to the database. You know what they're doing.
Okay.
That's because we're looking at the source code and we're developing it, right? If you were going to release this, you wouldn't give, and you put it on the Play Store. People who are just downloading it onto their phones shouldn't be seeing the source code, so they shouldn't know what the tag is about the database. I mean, think in our everyday lives, the games that we play on our phone, and have we ever seen the database for them? Right? We don't. We could probably look and search and dig around and figure out where it's being saved, but we don't know what the tags are and where they're saving it.
The worst incident that happened to me was even using our own database. We had a bunch of students go out to a conference, and they were going to give a presentation at the conference. And we were using the database also for a course, and students were working on their projects using the database, but the people at the conference thought, well, wouldn't it be a good idea if we just cleared out the database to make sure our presentation works well? So they basically cleared it. Including everyone else's projects.
So yeah, this morning we had talked about the custom DB, and Scott had brought it up for us. Again, I do have the updated instructions, and I can send them to you. I just kind of wanted you to get a chance to ask questions and be able to use the database before trying to make your own.
That's not up on the teacher side?
No, I just got the updated files from Dave about 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
And
So we should probably put it there, because this question always comes up.
Yeah. I think the problem is a lot of people go and search for it, and App Inventors come up, and it's not updated.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave's is updated.
Dave has the updated files, yeah.
For his site.
One that I got, the site that I posted.
But sorry I got here late. I was meeting with the students down the hall. I just want to hear whether people had a hard time with TinyWebDB. Did it go okay? Was there major problems? No? Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty good once I spent some time with it.
Yeah, it's all good. It just takes more. It's not as intuitive as TinyDB.
Right. It's this asynchronicity business, right? You just have to do things differently. And yeah, that's quite a leap from the way we've been doing things up till now, I think. This is pretty advanced programming. We don't do anything like this in our CS1 course. We don't even do it in our data structures course. This is sort of client-server computing, where your app is the client and you're talking to a service on the cloud or on the web, right? This is pretty advanced stuff. So I'm glad to hear it went okay.
Nobody cried, did they?
I think this is one of the times when Jim quit.
Yeah, definitely.
In the first summer.
So if you're okay with 6.7, if you've taken a look at 6.8 and you have questions, let me know. I know I just answered one for Michelle. Again, another reminder that you want to use a different tag, right? So you can create your own tag and kind of test it out on your own until you kind of get a feel for it, if you would like. As long as everybody has an understanding that we were all using the same tag this morning so we could play against one another.
Did you fix the typo in the tag?
That was somebody else's. I think the issue was Bill or Michelle or one of the two was the first to use the tag and had to deal with the case of it not being there. Right, so we start talking about that nested if statement.
Mhm. Okay.
Right. Questions, concerns, comments, praises?
No, that was good.
You guys are so talkative today.
Friday, they want to go home.
Okay.
Well, they are home.
Yeah.
They want to go out. PIF starts in a minute.
Pauline?
Yes.
Hi. Okay, when you're talking about the nested if statement, it was there as far as I know, because it's when you said dot got value, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Dot
the-
got. Yeah, and dot got value, and then it checks if not value from WebDB, then it says set to value from. So is it supposed to have one more? Is it like three ifs?
No, there's just two.
Just two, right? And yeah, and that's what I had.
The first if is checking for which tag you queried, right? Because you could have multiple queries. They're all going to come back through got value. You could query the top. You could query the top score. In another
Right.
app, you could have other queries, right? In this
Right.
case, it just has one. So that's the first if.
Right.
The second if is whether there was any data associated with that tag.
Right.
That's where you're checking that it's not the eat.
Right.
Yeah. If there is data, then you want to assign it. So yeah, you just need those two.
Right, and that's what I had. I don't know if that's what Philip had on his, but
the blue one. We got a.
All right. You're asking not.
Yeah.
So yours is working okay, Michelle?
it is now, but I had both ifs, so I'm not sure what happened the first time.
Well, there needed to be an if that said, if it's blank, set it to 0. There wasn't one. I added it to mine and ran it. That's why the key was in there afterwards. As soon as we finished talking this morning, by 10:05, 10:35, I put it in mine and ran it. That's where the key came from.
It wasn't something wasn't there.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Suppose, yeah, but if the value is blank, set it to 0. That wasn't.
It's hard to understand you with the speaker we have. But try again. Try again. Oh.
What? He must get a high score.
What's that?
He must get a high score.
Ran it
Later in the code.
Added in the code you have on the board, setting to 0.
Set to 0.
Right behind.
Yeah, I see.
That wasn't in there. I added it, and then it went ahead and worked fine. And allowed me to then update it so that it was in there for everyone else. That make sense?
I think what Chandler's saying is that earlier there's like no catch code for what happens if it's
Right.
empty.
That should be set to 0
No, I
by
see.
default.
So no,
No, it's empty initially. Like it wasn't there.
So the if statement, the second if statement is saying if the value is not equal to nothing. So if it's nothing, so if there's something already there, you're going to use it. So I see what you're saying. So you would say else, right? If it was nothing,
Else set it equal to
set
zero.
it to 0.
Set what to 0?
The top score.
High score.
But that
isn't
depends.
that's already set to 0, isn't it?
Is top score already defined in the code?
Yeah, it is. It has to be initialized to something.
Right.
So it would be initialized to
To
0.
0. So it should handle it on its own.
For some reason, it wasn't. It didn't up.
There it is. See that?
No, it's universal.
I don't. The first part wasn't in the database.
Yeah, it's set to 0.
Yeah, so initially it should be set to 0, so you shouldn't have to do that. But if that's, it's not. There's no harm to do that. That would make sense. You shouldn't have to.
And so that's my fault. The way I did it on the board. Ooh, I did it the opposite way, up here. I did it the opposite way that it was in the document. So the document is saying if it's not nothing, go ahead and use it.
Right. The problem was you had a statement that said, is it greater than that score? And it brought back a score of a blank, and it would bomb because it would say, oh, you can't compare a numeric value to a blank. So you had to set it equal to 0 after bringing the data back, or it bombed when you tried to save it.
Where's update universal score? Right here. No, it would display 0.
I don't know. Works for.
Okay.
So it doesn't.
So, but Chandler, can you see our screen?
No, we can't screen share
we can't
this
screen
computer.
share. Okay.
So,
All right, never mind. Forget it.
Whatever.
If I'm looking at the same code or not.
yeah, so it's
Chandler, can you share your screen?
I don't know.
hate this thing.
If I can even find the right part of the code.
So yeah, if you are in App Inventor, then in Google Hangouts, hit the green screen share button on the left. So the green and white arrow. Or green screen, white arrow.
Can you see it?
Not yet.
Actually, this is the correct one anyway.
No.
Yeah, but I see he's singing
Wrong code anyway.
0. There's not 3 6. So I just did that.
That's interesting. They can't read that.
Is it here?
Backwards. isn't
For
it?
us it is, not for them.
Oh, for us?
Forward.
Yeah. Good to know. What's that? All right. Any other questions before we break for the weekend?
If you are still having trouble and if right now you're still having trouble, email me your AIA file so I can look at it, and I'll make some comments in it and send it back. I'll give you 15 minutes to send it to me.
Now, I did take a look at one other thing we talked about, nothing to do with tiny DVD, but there was a discussion at one of the talks about how to do multiple choice randomly. So I've been working on an algorithm for that. I put it up on my Google Sites if anybody wants to look at it.
Oh, nice.
So that was for Scott, especially.
I don't remember. Somebody said, hey, how can we do that? So I did it, both using buttons for the answers and using list view.
Very nice.
Obviously, you wouldn't need both in the same app, but
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Okay. I guess have a good weekend, everybody.
Yep, you too.
Okay, you too.
We'll check with you again on Monday.
Yep, have a great weekend, everyone.